So as we go forward, as we continue to educate our people, as we continue to see economic development, economic and social development, as we see a better politics emerge in the country, more cohesiveness, harmony, I think we'll move away from that. My contribution would continue to be like it's always been. I will continue to fight for justice, social justice. I will continue to fight for the kind of reforms that we need, particularly with the electoral process. And let me say here, I hope that the coalition would swiftly seek electoral reforms and reforms in our electoral process. We need to modernize our electoral process. There should be nothing holding back election results.
Yeah.
GCOM has radio equipment, they have telephone, they have faxes, they have emails, they have computers. We should modernize our electoral system so that while we're waiting for ballot boxes and statements of poll to be transported to the Elections Commission headquarters in Georgetown, the Elections Commission staff should be able to communicate the results contained in those statements of poll to the Commission so that they could, in a timely way, inform the nation preliminarily what the results to be declared would be. So there is no excuse for the Commission, the chairman of the Commission saying we have to wait until we get all these boxes from remote parts of the country. That's nonsense. They should have had a mechanism for their staff to communicate the results at each polling place or from the district returning officers to the headquarters, and they should have released that information as a preliminary result. And yes, we understand that they need to see the original copies of the statements of poll to ensure that they're accurate before the declaration is made, and as such, make the declaration off of those original statements of poll. But a preliminary result should have come out 24 hours, and we have to make sure that there is serious, not only reform of the laws governing the electoral process, but even the processes within the Elections Commission. We have to reform those.
Rickford, if you could ask former presidents Bart Jagdeo and Ramatar 2 questions each, what would you ask them?
I would ask President Ramatar why he did not seek to have a government of national unity, having lost the popular vote. In any part of the world, when a government does not have the popular vote, they move towards inclusiveness and unity. They moved away from it. They got more entrenched. They dug in their heels with their racism and with their partisanship. So I would really like to know why he did not do that. I noticed Robert Passad, the former government minister from the PPP, he's now calling for a government of national unity. So I told him, welcome aboard the train. But this train has left without the PPP a long time ago, since 2011, when they lost the parliament. In terms of President Jagdeo, I will ask him why he allowed so many people to be killed. Notice I didn't say how many people you killed.
Right.
I said how many people, why did he allow so many people to be killed in his administration? And doesn't he think that these people deserve justice?
Rickford, how do we address, it is another very important matter. How do we address the moral breakdown in our communities and the various civil services?
Well, I remembered when I worked for President Hoyt when he came to power. Well, I was young when he came to power, but eventually when I became of age and I worked in his administration, he had instructed that, I think his prescription for code for public servants, and he had that installed, engraved in every government office, and he had a list of requirements and conduct by which public servants should adhere. We need something like that throughout our society, and our leaders will have to lead the way. We have to make sure that there are laws and regulations in place to combat corruption and unethical behavior. It has to start with the top government officials. We have to make sure that we enact properly the Integrity Commissions Act so that we can have disclosures of public officials. We want to see what their finances are. So if they came into power earning $1 million Guyana dollars, and all of a sudden during their tenure, they built a house that cost $2 billion Guyana dollars, we must be able to see where that money came from. When we should have rules in place to ban them from taking bribes and gifts. In terms of public servants, we ought to restore the standards that we had in the public service. We have to make sure that qualified people are appointed to jobs so that they could function effectively on behalf of the Guyanese people. We have to make sure that throughout the community, government works. We have to make sure that at our regional offices and government offices throughout the country, people understand that they work for the people of Guyana. So everyone should conduct themselves at the highest standard. They must be efficient. They must be helpful. They must be patient and courteous throughout the society. And I think religious institutions, faith-based institutions, non-governmental organizations, all should contribute. The business sector, all should contribute to reforming not only the government, but our way of thinking, our polity, reforming our cultures so that we can respect each other if we disagree. Even in Parliament, I've seen over the last 20 years a complete breakdown of any kind of standards in the Parliament on the side of the government. People dress anyhow, they talk anyhow, they say anything, and so we have to move away from that. And in doing so, again, we'll have to look at international standards, and we'll have to play a role, those of us who live in the diaspora, who have any sort of skill with regard to training and education, with regard to psychological development. One of the things that I would like to see is a serious police force, serious police reforms. I would like to see the police force be given the resources that it needs. Mm-hmm. Dr. Ivelaw Griffith, who's a national security expert, who's Guyanese, pointed out that based on the Guyana Police Force's own report in 2011, they were understaffed by 8,000. So hopefully this new government would address that. We need police vehicles, the police need modern equipment, and even the entire throughout, the customs, the Inland Revenue Service. One of the things that I would like to see is a reform of our taxation. They should remove VAT from food items. They should remove this crazy customs tax system where if you import something into the country, you tax 2 and 3 times above the cost of that item. It's crazy. We have to reform our tax code. We have to put systems in place to make sure that people move from poverty to the middle class. So we have to create job opportunities for young people. We have to retrain people. To me, our education should be free. When education in Guyana was free from nursery to university, we had serious human development capital in the country. We had the best professionals in the Caribbean, well trained. And not only did you go to University of Guyana for free, the government sent our professionals abroad for tertiary education. Many of us, I did not benefit from that, but many Guyanese benefited from that. And almost all of those people are out of the country. So again, we have to now tap into our human resource. We have to make sure we examine all the systems of government, taxation, customs. We have to reform those to make it more efficient and friendly to the Guyanese people. So the coalition's task of governing the country is not going to be easy. There's some serious challenges ahead. This is the first round. We've won the election. Mm-hmm. Now, the coalition has to get down to the serious business of governing the country.
What do you say? What do you say to those constituents who are looking for immediate results? How do you advise them that patience is actually indeed a virtue?
Well, they will have to understand that the coalition has just gotten into government. They have a huge mess to clean up. We're not even sure if there's any money in the treasury.
Oh no.
We have to have resources to do things. So they have to be patient. I also want to reach out to those people who did not vote for the coalition and let them know that this government would be a government for all of Guyana, all of the people of Guyana. One of the things that I proposed this to President Jack Day when he told me this is not important. There should be an urban and rural development cooperation or authority in Guyana that is independent, that is made up of people from both the PAPPP and the government. The task of this body should be to look and see the needs, of the various villages and towns, and every year approve developmental projects equitably across the country. So if you're developing infrastructure in IFLA, ensure that at the same time you're developing infrastructure in Tain or Blackbush Polar. If you're developing the agricultural sector in Region 5, in villages in Region 5, ensure that you're building industries and manufacturing plants in Buxton. Ensure that the water and irrigation systems in Annandale function properly so that those farmers can have bumper crops. At the same time, you're developing Tiger Bay or Denamstel or Mucka or Golden Grove and Victoria and Haslington. We have to do it equitably, but we have to develop the country. Over the last 20 years, there has been stagnation in Guyana, no development. The government built a bridge across the Berbice River, but that's the only development we had in the country, basically. But that bridge was built with 1930s technology. It has cut off the entire New Amsterdam community from any sort of commercial activity. That should not be so. We cannot sacrifice one community against the other for the benefit of the other. So, again, the constituencies that voted for the coalition will have to be patient. Excuse me, they will have to ensure that they remain engaged and ensure that the government is held accountable, ensure that they live up to their promises, and ensure that there's genuine economic development that filters down to every town and every village and every man and every child on the street.
Rickford, I know personally that you believe in empowering young people. And what do you say to young people in Guyana, now that the campaign is over and the elections have been won? What do you say to them to encourage them, to empower them?
Well, one of the first things that our young people need to do is remain engaged in the process. You cannot only become active at election time. You have to remain engaged. You have to make sure that you educate yourself. Those people who have gone beyond school, we have to ensure that they have some sort of skills training, be it vocational, even at the tertiary level, whatever. Also, we have to have our young people involved in non-for-profit groups, in community groups. We have to ensure that they're trained for leadership. I would like to see younger folk in parliament. I would like to see younger people on the regional democratic councils, on the on the neighborhood democratic councils. Let's see young people, 20-year-olds, people who are skilled, who can be mayors of towns, regional chairmen, regional vice chairman, members of parliament, in government offices, head of government agencies. We have to now train a cadre of young people so that they can take over from the David Grangers and the Moses Nagamutu and the Raphael Trotmans of the world. But my advice to them is to ensure that they now train themselves and put themselves into position of leadership Let them ensure that they participate in the economic development of the country. Let them participate at every level of community development, of urban development. They should be thriving, brilliant young organizations in Georgetown, in New Amsterdam, in Bartica, of young people who can bring great ideas, a new vision for the development of Guyana. What do they want to see Guyana like in the next 20 years, and how can they contribute to the development of Guyana? Tomorrow belongs to the youth, and we have to make sure that we equip them so that when their time has come, they can pick up the torch and run with it.
Rickford, as you work tirelessly to get the PPP government out over the years, what I'm just curious, what kept you going? There must be times when you might have felt, you know what, this may not happen, but something kept you going. What kept you going, and why did you continue to pursue this?
One of the things that kept me going is the injustice. When I look at all of these young men that were killed with impunity, when I looked at how the PP government dismissed the mothers who cried, wailed and weep for their children, when I looked at how CARICOM, that is based in Guyana, has done nothing to ensure that there's social justice, when I look at the arrogance of Bar Jagdeo and how he brought the criminal enterprise, Roger Can and others, and handed over the national security of the country to these people. When I look at a criminal allowed to import eavesdropping equipment, surveillance equipment that they could have used to track people and kill them. These same criminals tapping the police commissioner's phone, and I'm talking about then Commissioner Winston Felix, and the president not being concerned that there's a national security breach by a criminal gang, but was more concerned about asking the FBI to identify or to verify that the voice on that gang, on the tapes, were in fact his police commissioner. That's when I realized that we have a government that is probably complicit with criminals. And for those of us who lived in free societies, we value dearly our freedoms and our civil liberties. We value dearly justice. And so I could not sit down and be selfish in a society where I have all my freedoms and see my brothers and sisters in Guyana being killed with a noose of strangulation around their necks by the PPP because of what they look like, because of what they believe in, because of who they choose to associate with politically. And that's what kept me going. I never wavered for once. I probably became one of the most attacked Guyanese outside of Guyana.
Oh, yeah.
But that was motivation for me to keep going, to fight to ensure that yesterday happened, that what happened yesterday became a reality. And so I didn't do it alone. I had help. I remember a group of Caribbean young people as part of a team by the Caribbean Guyana Institute for Democracy, excuse me, in 2006, going to the State Department and having a meeting with the director, the Assistant Secretary of State for the Western Hemisphere, and saying to them, you have to go get Roger Can. This guy is killing people. I remember meeting with several members of Congress. I remember meeting with several members of the Bush administration. I remember meeting Vice President Cheney. I remember talking to President Bush about Guyana. I remember pushing Guyana everywhere I went. I pushed justice for the people of Guyana. And that's why I was so elated. That's what kept me going. And the attacks that came on me, that was nothing. My family was concerned. I haven't gone to Guyana in 17 years, 19 years or 20 years. I've had the FBI call to me and tell me they pick up threats. I've had my office calling in the police because people were writing in threats to us, to me. I remember being attacked. I suffered lots of personal attacks, but that's what kept me going. It never deterred me in any way. Of course, I was concerned about my security, especially during the Roger Can era. But I thank God that I have been safe. I thank God that despite all of the attacks, I'm still here. And I will continue to fight for social justice and justice for those people in Guyana. I will fight to help the coalition fulfill its dreams and its vision as articulated in its manifesto. I would mobilize Guyanese all over the United States and North America to make sure we support this government. I will do whatever I can to help develop my country. I have a dream, like all Guyanese, right? To see my country develop. I want to see my country advance beyond the development in Trinidad and Tobago and Barbados. We're the richest country in terms of natural resources, probably, in the hemisphere. Why are we so poor? So I want to see a new airport in Guyana, international airport, that can bridge South America with the Caribbean. I want to see a deep water harbor where ships and cruise ships can come to Guyana. You know, I want to see Ogle develop as a huge international airport. I would love to see huge manufacturing plants in my country. I would love to see high-speed railroads in Guyana, a network of highways so that we could zip to the Rupununi on a highway, or zip to Bartica on a highway, or zip to Parika, you know, to Linden within 1-2 hours. You know, I would love to see these things. And this is our moment. This is our opportunity to help modernize and develop our country. This is our opportunity to make sure we have a first-class healthcare system, a first-class education system, a first-class infrastructural network in the country, so that Guyana could attract the kind of international investments we need to ensure that the country is on a path, not only to the threshold of development, but on a path to development and economic boom. I want to see Guyana emerge like Brazil, like Singapore. That's my vision for the country. And I think we have the right government in place. We have a government with the kind of people who are skilled, who could get us there.
Rickford, last question for the evening. What gives you hope about Guyana?
When I see young people come out onto the streets and lined up and vote for change, when I see young people now taking their civic responsibilities seriously, when I see a new government in place with a new president who has integrity, a new president who I know will govern in the best interests of all of Guyana, a new president with a team of people who are skilled, who are highly qualified and highly trained, who have a vision for the country that matches the vision and aspirations of the people. When I see a new government that doesn't want to divide us, but wants to unite us, to ensure that we all live in harmony, so that together we can move forward and develop our country and look forward for a brighter future, so that we could implement a vision of modernity, so that we can give the people who would inherit Guyana from us, our children and their children, we can give them a developed country. We can give them a country of which they can be proud and we could be proud. And we have to do this for posterity.
Rickford, thank you. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us for these 2 hours. And an apology on behalf of Mr. Hughes. Nigel is caught up in a transition meeting, and so he couldn't actually make it. But Rickford, thank you so very much, man. As usual, very informative. I'm looking forward to having you again.
Thank you.
You're welcome, brother.
Okay, have a good night.
Have a good night, too.